Right,
Yeah.
in a word of prayer, please.
Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for our citizens of the county and our county. We thank you for the weather we have it. And, lead and guide us in the directions that we do good for the special meeting we're having today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You still there with us, Dr. Spire?
Yes, sir, I am.
Thank you.
Westbrook,
Go ahead.
if I could, kick it off, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Of course, we did draw names out of a hat to determine the order in which the interviews would be conducted. There is one candidate that had a court conflict that's not in the conference room, but they plan to be here before the interview time established for them. Of course, we've developed 10 scripted questions, and those are just so that the board can evaluate the candidates equally, but there is nothing that prohibits a commissioner from asking questions. We just can't ask personal questions. The questions that we scripted are in front of you, and the only way we knew to do it, it was just go by district. That's the only way we knew to do it. And each district would get 2 questions. And, but again, commissioners can ask any questions that they want to. We anticipate all candidates being here, but it's recommended that if a candidate doesn't show up, that they not be considered by the time of their interview. So when each candidate comes in, it's been recommended that we make them aware. We've already made them aware that there are the 10 scripted questions, but the commissioners can ask any additional questions that they may want to. And if you're ready, then we'll go ahead and get started with the first.
Before we get started, just looking at this piece of paper, it says we've got the agenda in front of us. It's got a consent agenda.
That's an oversight.
Okay, so that does not need to be included on here.
No.
I'll offer a motion then before we start with the interviews to approve the agenda with the consent agenda items being taken off the agenda.
Have a motion. Second, Mr. Bryant. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried unanimously.
How are you going to, Commissioner Spiders, did you vote yes on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good.
Yes, I did. Yes. Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Dean. Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're recognized.
Okay. Mr. Dean, you had talked a little bit about the algorithms involved in this process, and I wanted to know near the end, at the end of this process today with the commissioners, where are we going from there in terms of making final selection? Is that going to be from
Dr. Spire, if you
Yes,
can
sir.
hear me well, we're going to hear every one of them. We're going to interview everyone that's here. And by the second meeting there, in February, we will vote on it.
Okay, so no final process decision we made today, is that right?
Say it one more time, Dr. Spire.
I said no final decision will be made today, is that
No,
correct?
sir. No,
Okay.
sir.
Okay.
Well, if you make
Now-
one, of course, obviously that's you, but that's up
Right.
to us to make that.
Okay. One final question before we move on. There on this first page here, there's the names, I guess, are redacted from the ranking committee. Ranking rather. I'm curious as to why that was done.
Dr. Spires, the redacted ranking of the candidates was a recommendation made by our attorney that is representing us in the Michelle Jordan Board of County Commissioners issue.
Okay. What I'm concerned about or confused about is that this process is a public process. So why was the redaction necessary?
I would have to defer that to, our legal counsel.
Okay, legal counsel, can you respond, please?
The legal counsel, meaning the counsel that's representing us in the, Michelle Jordan versus Board of County Commissioners issue. And, that our attorney is not here in that issue.
So you can't answer that right now, is that right?
Not at this moment, but I can get you an answer, Dr. Spires.
Does the group, the young lady from Neighbors, Gibbon Neighbors, she's not able to opine on that situation? Because she's representing us as legal representatives.
And Mr. Chairman,
Ma'am.
to address.
You recognize, go ahead.
Thank you. To address that, I'm not exactly aware what the conversations were with the other outside attorney on that issue.
Yes, ma'am.
That being said, we can get a unredacted list to provide to the commission.
Okay.
And I will add, Dr. Spires, that our attorney did give us a date that would be, that we would be able to release that.
Okay, I'm concerned because everything that we do is supposed to be within the confines of the Sunshine Law, and that redaction here is, to me, is not meeting that requirement.
Yeah. And Dr. Spires, there is a statute associated with, doing RFPs and RFQs and, and the county receiving those responses. And there is a period of time in which that information is not public information. So that is the basis, although I don't have the statute number, but I can get all that information to you if you want it.
Okay, I just want to publicly say, as a public official, as a county commissioner, I want all information to be provided to me before I make a decision regarding taxpayers' dollars.
Yes, we can understand, and I agree with you. Is that all you have, Dr. Spires?
So this information will be forthcoming if I heard the attorney correctly. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I have for right now. Now, there should be questions, you say broken down by district someplace in the packet of information that I have here. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just haven't found them yet, so bear with me.
I didn't understand your last statement.
I said I haven't found those questions for District 1 yet. Bear with me for just a second.
You provided with it.
Mr. Dean, is there someplace specific that I need to look?
We had emailed those to your work email yesterday, Dr. Spires.
Okay. Start behavioral. All right, just a second. I apologize.
Commissioner Spires can't find those, can they be, scanned and re-emailed to him? Or as an alternate, if that's not possible, maybe we could ask, County Administrator Dean to read the questions on behalf of Commissioner Spires.
It's up to the board. I'd be glad to do that.
You want to put that in
A motion.
Can you ask Commissioner Spires if he's not, is he
No.
not able to find them?
Commissioner Spire,
Yes, sir.
are you able to find them? Are you struggling to find them? Can we send them to you another way?
Yes, please, because I'm not finding it right now. Okay.
Or can somebody ask on
Just a
his behalf?
second here.
Yes, sir. That's fine. Wait.
Or someone, could I ask his questions on his behalf?
Would you be interested in our administrator asking these two questions on your behalf?
That's no problem. That's no problem. I'm here. That's fine.
Okay, all right.
District one questions you want, I believe Mr. Hartman, the Hartman group is the first candidate, Mr. Hartman?
Come forward.
Come on in.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Hartman, what we, have planned to do is that, of course, we have 10 scripted questions, but any questions beyond that, is the pleasure of the board. They can ask any additional questions they want to. Each commissioner will ask 2 questions based on their district ranking, and I will be asking questions for District 1. So, you know, are you ready or to proceed?
We are ready, and obviously with me is my partner, Josh Pasqualone, so we'll bounce the questions between us here.
Okay. Move along.
Okay. Mr. Hartman, the first question is, what specific experience do you have advising local or county governments, particularly in areas like land use, procurement, public finance, public safety, and employment law?
So, been licensed for 30 years. I was fortunate to, when I started, had a partner. I joined up with 2 other gentlemen. One of them was a local government attorney, and he sort of taught me the ropes. And what the ropes consisted of was initially City of Destin back in 2000, when they started to kind of launch into orbit. We were the city's land use council, and cut my teeth there. And that was a wild time because it went from a sleepy coastal town to Home Depot and development of condos and everything else. So we got our fill of land use experience there. At the same time, representing Jefferson County, which is a little different environment, more agricultural, rural. But we did, again, land use council for the city of Jefferson County, as well as Hamilton County, where we did the mining, the PCS phosphate mines. So that was land use, but it was DRIs and then what used to be DRI now are sector plans. But we did a lot of land use there, but it was mostly mine related. So again, they didn't have a lot going on at that time other than that. And then kind of going out on my own, I wanted to see if I could, these were all really clients of the firm, of my partner at the time, and got the city of Carabel. So that's where I got into some of the other issues that you brought up of HR and issues beyond just land use. And at these smaller cities, you end up representing the police department, the HR, finance, obviously all the solicitations. And among the sort of the rural cities there of now Carabel, Apalachicola, they're very dependent on state funding, grant funding, and that sort of thing. So that played a big part. We get a lot of solicitation questions because again, there's not a lot of people on staff with a lot of that knowledge, and they're confronted with tough questions on pretty large sums of money, certainly multiple times their budgets that they're having to handle appropriately because they want to keep that money coming from the state and the feds. So, and Josh and I have worked together on, and he can speak for himself, but on the cities for now, closing on 10 years. And so all that experience, and it's sort of paying it forward. My partner at the time was about 10 years older than me. I'm just a little over 10 years older than Josh. And it's sort of what I take some pride in. It's sort of the same dynamic, is he's developed an interest in this, and I'm fortunate enough to, to be able to work with him where I enjoy the local government law, but I can't be everywhere all the time. Sometimes we'll have special meetings, some this and that. And so we've worked out a real nice rotation where he can cover when I'm unavailable or vice versa. And we both take interest in sometimes different issues. So one of my interests originally, maybe I'll let you ask more questions. Sorry, I'm talking too much, is I used to be an engineer, so civil engineer, and I did water, wastewater was my focus. And you'll see on our firm resume, and Josh has been helping me with this, is a number of cities around the state will do that, will be just special counsel just for utility matters in the Central Florida, in the Panhandle. And so, yeah, just a kind of a wide range of things. And it's, taking a real interest in local government, and Josh has picked up on that.
Okay. Next question, Mr. Hartman. Can you describe a complex legal issue or case you handled for a public entity and the strategy you used to resolve it?
All right. So, trying to think of one that was resolved real effectively. See, the city of Carabel has been confronted with a number of issues. We've had to back up to the utility issues. So at one time, and still currently, they were viewed as a provider for the eastern end of Franklin County. So they had to effectively, and were asked to take over what they call the Lanark Water and Sewer District, and then potentially move into the St. James Bay area and serve that. There was, and again, this without boring you with all the details, they had to extend force mains and things through service territories of other providers at the time. And we got into litigation surrounding that, and were, as far as the strategy, successful in expanding greatly the territory of the city to be able to add customers, for instance, about 500 out at the golf course out there, and bypass some of the existing providers that then we ended up as part of a kind of a, let's say, a litigation plus sort of negotiation, as well as working with state players at the Water Management District and DEP to say through the courts, but also through just kind of strategy, end up with utility, water and sewer control of a lot more territory and customers, which allowed the city to kind of flatten rates. And it's one of the things, again, I'm beat you to death on utilities, but unless you're growing, then your rates just go up and up and up. So the only way to keep rates flat is to grow. So, and it's difficult to grow when it's rural, because you're not attracting the population.
Okay. The first question is, what is your experience with litigation involving government entities, including special experience with the trials and depositions, and experience with the Florida Administrative Law and Act procedures?
Right, and I'll let Josh hit some of this too, because he's certainly filled in for me on a number of these. But what we primarily, I say this, end up in court on, and most recently would be ordinance enforcement. So you have some folks that'll challenge the validity of an ordinance, or just simply code enforcement, and they'll take it to circuit court. So we've handled that mostly on nuisance type cases. In relation to that, there will sometimes be depositions, but typically we're on the defending deposition side, in a lot of cases. I certainly believe in, leaving no stone unturned, but in my experience, try to minimize if a local government's in litigation, that there's no usual upside to that. I mean, we're spending money to try and maintain our position. We're not usually doing it to gain anything. So we want to minimize the cost, but not obviously to the detriment of the case. But on the administrative side, we've handled a number of bid protests. So someone will protest a bid that's been put out, and they'll bring a DOA judge down, and we will do an administrative hearing on the bid protests in front of DOA according to the Administrative Procedures Act. As far as then land use, certainly have had challenges to comp plans and land use changes that end up before a DOA administrative judge, and we've handled those as well.
Okay, second question, how do you approach community complex issue, legal issue to non-legal audience such as county commissioners, department heads, or community groups?
So, as I said, and Josh and I have talked about this a lot, is our big part of our job is to stay out of litigation if possible, right? But be prepared to do it if we need to, and prepare for it, because sometimes it's coming. So you want to send out the right letters, you want to prepare the ground as best you can to prevent it, but at the same time win if it happens. And as far as breaking complex legal issues down, all I can say is we try to do it. I mean, if you say, Dan, I don't understand what you're telling me, then I will try again and explain it. And I like to think that, I don't know why I think this, but the engineering background a little bit helps, where what is your goal? How are you going to get there? And as far as the legal maneuvering and rules of procedure and stuff like that, you can get real tangled up in that and confused, but that's not typically relevant to, as far as a commission, you're setting policy and this and that. You need to understand, we need to be able to explain to you and provide you with options, recommendations, and all that. Definitely it has a legal component to it, but I would hope that we would be able to break it down and explain it, clear enough where if you have a question, you'll ask it and we'll answer it to your satisfaction.
Okay, thank you.
Well, before I get to my questions, let me say that I appreciate your interest in serving Jackson County as potentially serving Jackson County as legal counsel. I appreciate you taking the time to be here. Just for my own clarification, to be able to put a name to a face, can you tell me both of your names again?
Yes.
Joshua Pasqualone.
Okay.
And Daniel Hartman, H-A-R-T.
Say it again.
Joshua Pasqualone.
Okay. And Daniel Hartman.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. My question pertains to conflict management and ethics. And do you consider yourself to be an escalator or a de-escalator of conflicts? And as a follow-up to that, assuming that you will say you'd be a de-escalator, give an example of how you would handle a disagreement with a county official over a legal matter.
Understood. And as the answer you'll probably get from everyone is a de-escalator, but proof's in the pudding on that. And lawyers are not known for their powers of de-escalation. But again, we listed some references and that sort of thing. We represent private clients as well as public clients. And at times I've been accused of not being aggressive enough. Now that's on the private side mostly, because again, being an aggressive local government attorney, I just don't, that's outside of, Josh and I've talked about this a lot, is that just not a productive thing? I mean, it's just not. But as far as, as far as de-escalating and say direct, and I've had it, I definitely have, because it's politics. You have commissioners that have been elected with to promote certain policies and don't like being told that, hey, there's a statute that says that's a problem. And I've gone around and around with them before, and I mean, this is my impression, right? From my perspective, I've had years long disagreements. Meaning, when I say disagreements, if I tell someone something they don't want to hear, then they think I'm challenging them or I am somehow against them. And where we've been fortunate enough to be employed long enough, which is every time we haven't had short engagements, is ultimately I believe we have won them over in that they understand that our job is to look out for them. The commissioners are our clients. So the reason I'm telling you that I think we should approach it this way or that way is because it provides, number one, it's legal. It's the most clear legal path to accomplishing what you want to accomplish, but also prevents future problems down the road. That, you know, just being a yes man as a lawyer gets you in trouble. It's just not, because it's any disagreement I've ever had with a public official has never been personal. It's simply, hey, we can't, you know, because they are under the statute a relative, you cannot appoint them to, you know, I've had a number of those, and they take it very personally first. But I say, look, if I just said yes and let you do it, 2 years from now, it's going to bite both of us, and that doesn't help either of us. So, again, I like to think that, you know, the commissioners that we've represented have come to appreciate that over time. Sometimes it takes a little time to.
Thank you. How do you identify and handle potential conflicts of interest when serving as a private attorney on retainer for a public entity like the Jackson County Board of County Commissioners? And would you be comfortable signing a confidentiality agreement prior to starting, if selected as our attorney?
Yes, as far as obviously compliant with Florida statutes on 119, any sort of confidentiality, of course, no problem there. And as far as conflicts, Josh and I, we put our heads together for applying for this position, and we don't have currently, and wouldn't expect any too much in the future, really just call it 2 landowner clients in the county. So we run conflict checks on anything we would take, and if we were hired by the county, we really just wouldn't be taking any private clients that had, or even, I say could have, that's a little bit broad, but or would be expected to have anything before the county. And in the event a private client that we say represented, we don't have any current representations, but that we had represented in the past, we disclose that to you, which is our obligation to do so. So we disclose it so you all will be aware of it. And I'm trying to think of an occasion, which has happened, of a client that comes forward. For instance, I'm thinking of one landowner, large landowner on the south side of the interstate. It's in, and if they came to the county with some sort of application, we would have to have conflict counsel handle it. So we would disclose that and explain why, you know.
And we've done that in the past. We have some family members that own properties in the city of Apalachicola. When they started their planning and zoning process, we recused ourselves at the very beginning and said we'd have to have another attorney to cover the planning and zoning. They went through that for those hearings. Then when it went before the city, we excused ourselves completely. So there's no appearance of impropriety, and it was simply an application to build a residence. It wasn't, they weren't trying to get anything changed, but from the very beginning, we let the commission know that, and we stepped aside from the very beginning so that it never looked like we were trying to do something improper, get their application through any faster or quicker or any special exceptions. They went through the entire process independently of us being involved at all.
Thank you.
Grant, you recognize.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to be asking you a couple of questions about billing, availability, and caseload management. How do you ensure cost-effective legal services for the county And what strategies do you use to manage and control cost? Use of paralegals, alternate fee arrangements? Do you plan to staff the position with partners or associates? And who would be the attorney representing the county at meetings?
So in reverse order, it's just the two of us. So Josh and myself, and you have 2 meetings a month, and obviously would have potential special meetings and other meetings. You would expect to see, and again, I think if we were fortunate enough to get the position, you would see both of us. Josh may be primary, and certainly primary on a number of issues, whereas I may be primary on others. But we would sort that out based on what's for the commission. And as far as what we have is contract paralegals. So when there's something that's just work that would be suitable, not for an attorney, but for a paralegal, we would contract that out at the $75 an hour. We've tried to structure the fee arrangement to be cost effective, where we cover the preparation and attendance at the meetings for a lump sum, and then work outside of that for the hourly rate, with litigation being a little bit higher rate. And again, our job, which again, all this is proof in the pudding, but I think if you, again, I cannot think in the last 5 years of a government we represented where we exceeded the budgeted amount. In most cases, we're below it, that they budget in their annual budget for attorneys. Again, a big part of that is, when I say staying out of litigation, again, when we are sued, insurance doesn't pick it up. I think we provide top-notch, legal services, but that's getting pulled into court, not initiating, not escalating things. And as far as keeping billing down, what we would, there's sometimes, and it would, again, it's always, once you're engaged, you can kind of get a sense of it, is you have really two folks that are asking you for things, staff and the commission. And at times there'll be 1 or 2 commissioners that have an issue that's up. So you'll have a lot of communication with them. I don't know the dynamic, your commission at this point, but sometimes there's commissioners that have a lot of questions and there's need there. Other times there's staff. Sometimes staff can ask a lot of, need legal service, need legal help. At times we would run that by you and say, hey, this is running up a bill. Want to make sure you're okay with spending, us spending this time on this project. And it's our job, when I say that, to ask you, it's really our job to say to one of the charter officers or anybody else, say, hey, put that on the agenda. Let's get the commission to approve that, and then we'll get to work on it. Where we don't just go running off, because early on we got that, I've heard that, say, wait a minute, just because the clerk or this person asks you to do these things, you've run up quite a bill here, and we wouldn't have asked you to do that. Oh, my fault. So we don't make that mistake anymore.
Thank you. What is your billing structure for retained? How transparent is that? It is your invoicing process.
So we bill a standard 0.6, which I think is what every attorney bills at this point, in 6-minute increments. The proposal we submitted was $1,500 a month is kind of our flat fee, which would cover the 2 meetings per month, attendance, preparation, all of those things. I've been attending all of your meetings, I think, since October. I understand that Mr. Dean is doing a very competent job kind of reviewing some of these issues that may not necessarily need full attorney time to review some of this standardized agreements and things that can't be changed. He's been reviewing a lot of those. On matters that were not related to court attendance, we would bill out at $250 an hour. And then any litigation matters would be $325 an hour. I did review the Jackson County Clerk of the Court's docket. I know there's roughly 20 cases the county's currently involved in litigation on. I think about 75% of those are currently handled by insurance counsel. There are some other matters that I did notice that were pending when I went through the docket. So I understand there is some litigated work that needs to be done, that will have to transition from the current county attorney over. But that's kind of the structure that we proposed to the board.
Thank you.
They left the chairman for last. Isn't that amazing?
That doesn't seem right.
First of all, where were you raised? Where's your home,
All right, don't hold this against me.
sir? No,
Don't,
we
don't
won't.
hold this against me. I
We won't.
was born in Washington DC and came to Tallahassee for a job in 1996.
Where's your home?
Originally, I'm from Stuart, Florida.
Mhm.
I came to FSU in 2000. I met my wife. I met a girl from Calhoun County. So we've been off and on in Tallahassee since 2000.
Now I'm gonna ask you the questions that we formatted. What will your availability be on an emergency basis?
And sorry, Commissioner Branch, you would
I
ask.
can read through all of it if you want me
Yes,
to, but let's
no,
go.
and
Well, doesn't
again,
matter.
as to my wife's great, she doesn't really bother me about it anymore. But in about the last 10 years, but the first 20 years, if you have my cell phone number, you call me. So weekends, evenings, it does not matter. You won't be the only person calling me. So, and because what has been brought home to me, because I've done a lot of different areas of law, but I've also done a lot of different things in my life. And when someone has a burning question that is going to keep them up all night, if it's 10 o'clock at night and I can 5 minutes put that to rest for you, I'm happy to do it. And I know Josh is too, because he's called me, I've called him when someone gets a hold of us. But there really is no, again, I would probably mention to you, I say, hey, can this wait till Monday? But I can't think of a time I've done it, because if it's important to you, then it's our job to answer it. So there's no fixed business hours.
That's a pretty good answer. How do you use technology to ensure a efficient workflow over a period of time?
So I've looked at a number of what they call practice software that's supposed to remind you and this and that. However, currently we are still a bit old school in that we have Outlook calendars that we sync up, and we track all of our tasks and duties and work we've done on these Outlook calendars. So we're not at the cutting edge on that, but I found that I've talked to, I've been reviewed, and Josh being a little younger than I, he came out of a firm that used that software. So we are looking into it, but it's a little bit daunting to get everything going on that. I'm a little behind the times on that.
Well, and I think some of that software is great for if you're doing a full litigation practice and you've got deposition deadlines, court hearing deadlines, motion practice deadlines. I think some of that software is great for that. For local government stuff, it's being prepared for the meetings, understanding what's going on, reviewing the agendas when they come out, answering commissioner questions. And that doesn't, we've looked at every single software company that exists, and there's not a good way to feed kind of a local government day-to-day operations into a fancy software program and spit out any results, versus if you were to feed in litigation items, it can task out deadlines and stuff for you, and it makes it a little bit easier. So we try and track and manage our local government clients the best that we can. And Dan likes to say it's old school. I think it's probably the more effective way to do it than to try and load something into software that's just, you're creating unnecessary tasks sometimes.
Just not as it has pertained to anything. How is it going in Apalachicola?
It's a little rough right now. It's a little rough. I'll be headed down there.
A water well contract.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a tough place to drill a good well there. A lot of corrosive water, but anyway.
Yeah.
I won't.
They're hoping, the geologists are very hopeful that when this new package of wells that they're gonna drill, that they can get something up high enough to kind of fix some of the issues that are going on down
They
there.
made great. I mean, it has improved vastly in the 4 or 5 months, but it was ugly over the summer.
Maybe they won't restrict them right there to the coast. Maybe they
Right, try to push them up.
send them up the hill somewhere.
Yep.
I drilled a well in Cape Sandblast there about 3, 4 years ago, and it,
You know.
you can test your skills right there. But anyway, we thank you. We appreciate you both coming.
Thank
You know,
you. Can I ask one more
Welcome.
question?
Well,
real quick?
let's
Where-
let Mr. Don Pro ask you another.
Where's your office out of? Is it in Tallahassee? Do you have an office?
So we've got a physical office in Tallahassee on Thomasville Road. I see you sometimes at the ARPC meeting, so I'm generally in that area. We have a kind of a satellite office if we need to meet with people in Calhoun County in Bluntstown. And then we've talked to some folks across the street from here if we need to meet with people in Jackson County. Obviously, if it's with staff, we can come meet here, but we have office space available to use here as well as in Carabel and in Apalachicola. So we kind of these little satellite spots to meet with folks wherever necessary, but we've got a primary physical office in Tallahassee.
Does anybody have any other questions? Dr. Spires, do you have a question?
No, sir, not at the moment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else you got?
Thank you.
We sure to thank you. Appreciate you coming. Good to see you. Next,
I think they're, Tyler's bringing them in.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, sir.
Just like we said earlier, just want to make sure that the firm recognizes that the county has prepared 10 scripted questions.
Yes, sir.
But each commissioner has the latitude to ask any additional questions that they want to.
Yes, sir. Okay. Would you like for us to give an opening statement or?
Well, we haven't with the other
Okay.
gentleman, but that's a nice thing to do, but we'll see what we can do in just a minute.
Okay.
Dr. Spires, you ready to ask questions?
Yeah, I've asked Mr. Dean to ask my questions for me.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, sir. The first two questions on behalf of Dr. Spires, the first one being, what specific experience do you have advising local or county governments, particularly in areas like land use, procurement, public finance, public safety, and public and employment law?
Okay, I'll try and take those. I may have to come back to you to get that, that list, but thank you again for having us. My name is Clayton Knowles of Knowles and Randolph. I have previously been the county attorney over in Gaston County from 2020 through 2024. So I've represented a local municipal governments in other capacities in addition to the city of Tallahassee, Jacob City here in Jackson County. Also the city of Gretna, where my law partner and father has currently been the attorney for, I believe, 40+ years. I won't age him too much. And then also we've worked with the Leon County Code Enforcement Board, the Board of Adjustment and Appeals, and in Gadsden County served as the county attorney with representing the Planning and Zoning Board. So their ancillary board where they do their land use activities and bring those up to the county commission. Can you give me that list again, Mr. Manager? That would be helpful.
Mr. Knowles, you have probably answered every one of them.
Okay.
I think you have hit on.
Okay, I just want to make sure I cover the bases for
You sure
the
did.
commission.
The next question on behalf of Dr. Spires, can you describe a complex legal issue or case you handled for a public entity and strategy you used and how you resolved it?
Sure. Last year, our biggest case, or 2 years ago, I'm sorry, the biggest case that we had at the county was a redistricting effort. We were sued by the Florida Republican Party, the Republican Party of Florida, saying that our districts were out of compliance with the state statute. So we had to effectuate a redistricting plan that was in compliance with state law and federal law regarding district size. So Gaston County is very similarly situated to you all in terms of population and sort of their sprawl. being a rural county. So we had not redistricted at that point for, I think, over 20 years. So some of the issues that we faced there were, again, you had an ongoing lawsuit that you were fighting against the clock, and then also you had a redistricting effort, and that needed to be completed within 270 days of the election. So there was sort of a mix and a merging of those two dualities. So we were defending against the lawsuit, trying to, in federal court, in the Northern District, trying to make sure that we were in compliance with state statute, and then also running and ticking against the clock. Simultaneous to that, there was a public records lawsuit that was filed against the county that was resolved after my departure, but that was ongoing, sort of part and parcel and simultaneous to the lawsuit that was happening with regard to the election and the redistricting. So we had to redistrict that, hire an expert, bring Mr. Spitzer in to come in, make sure those districts were within the one person, one vote, and within that 10% margin of error that you can have with a set of districts, right? So we had 5 districts there. So in order to do that, you had to have districts that were no more than 10% out of the compliance method. So that was whatever your total voters were, you would have deviations in each district. Obviously, you can't make a perfect district like you have to do, say, for Congress. But that would probably be the one that was, again, involved state and federal questions, federal lawsuit and a state lawsuit that was all running simultaneous to one another.
Okay.
That's correct, too.
Yeah. What is the experience with litigation involving government instances, including special experience with trials and dispositions, and experience with the Florida Administration Law and Act procedure?
So some of that is going to fall back on obviously the lawsuit that I just discussed. We were also sued during COVID over our mask mandate. We prevailed on that. That was filed sort of simultaneously in a lot of counties, actually. We also had to deal with issues relating to employee turnover. So there was a lot of employee turnover. They were terminated, and we had to defend against those civil rights cases. We had to defend against those employment discrimination cases. There were, unfortunately, a decent amount of tort cases. So we had to work in conjunction with FACT and FMIT, our casualty carrier, when it involved a vehicle or something on some of our property. So there's a lot of that sort of runs the gamut in terms of the actual litigation piece outside of the Florida Administrative Code. When you start getting into administrative code, you're dealing with things. We had 2 commissioners who were dual class employees. So they were commissioners like you all, but they also worked with other state jobs, and they weren't classified right with FRS. So the county was sort of dealing with trying to get out of reimbursing those funds to FRS to ensure that, I mean, again, it's a fiscally constrained county, just like you all. So $150,000 is a lot of money that goes a long way. So you have to sort of have that experience with the administrative code. Another big piece of it when you're dealing with economic development. So when you get an appropriation, when you receive federal dollars, you're not only dealing with, Code of Federal Regulations for some of your procurement issues. So your engineering, your design build, things of that nature, but you're also dealing with an issue where you have state regulations where you're dealing with contracts with the Department of Commerce, formerly DEO. So they're sending you down agreements. You've got to do small scale comp amendments when you're doing like your comp plan or your, not necessarily your strategic plan, but implementing that as part of your broader strategic plan. And you all have a good one. Those are some of the things that we've had to deal with. Certainly, the other Mr. Knowles can sort of talk to that in his 42 years, but sort of more recently, that's probably a lot of the experience that we've taken.
Okay, the next one is, how do you approach communications, complex issues or legal issues to non-legal audience, such as county commissioners, departments, heads, or community groups?
So first, I want to point out that our job, first and foremost, is to the citizens of any municipality or county or local government that we represent. So obviously, there comes times where the legalese isn't helpful, right? You don't want to just get a memo of mud, so to speak. So some of that is boiling it down to brass tacks. So when there are issues that we feel that we can all agree on and don't have much wiggle room, we'll tell you that. When there are issues that could go either way, we'll hear the pros to going this way, hear the cons to going this way, hear the pros to going the other way, hear the cons to going the other way. And I think that's what any good local government attorney will do. So your first duty is sort of to the citizens. The second duty is, of course, to the commission. And then your third duty is, of course, to the law. But the law always prevails, right? So that's always going to be the overarching goal, is to make sure that what we're telling you all is something that's easily digestible that you can go and recite to your constituents. Also not trying to just put it in legalese so everyone is confused. So when there is an issue that we feel deserves a memorandum or deserves more clarification, deserves some sort of discussion during a meeting, then that's certainly something that we are keen on doing, and putting it in terms that everyone can understand. That if you're a Harvard law grad, or if you're just a regular individual who never attended law school for that matter, then we're going to try and put it in terms that you can understand, that your constituents can understand, and that they won't be as confused as they would be if we just threw it to you as we're taking this to a judge or a court that's going to actually go and shepherdize it and look at the case law and look at the different things that are there. So some of that is, quite frankly, difficult because there's some legal maxims that are they're just complicated, right? They're just things that may take a little bit of searching through the mud to sort of get to an answer. But there are certain things that are, or a lot of things in local government that you can reasonably present to an individual who may have never read a statute in their life so that they can understand it. One example I like to do, I do a lot of probate law, and people are always asking, well, how do we deal with fractions? And I always say, think of your estate like a pizza, right? When you cut that pizza up, that's the easiest way that I can describe it for you, right? So if there are 5 heirs, there's 5 slices of pizza. Everybody's got 20%. 1/5. If there's 10 of you, everybody's got a 10th. Everybody's got 10%. And people just seem to be able to understand that when you put it in terms that maybe they weren't thinking about, but everybody, well, I hope everybody's had a pizza here. So that's kind of how we try to work in our day to day. Thank you.
Commissioner Donovan,
Yes, sir. First of all, let me say that,
you bring it back. Go ahead.
I appreciate your interest in, potentially serving, Jackson County as our legal counsel, and the time, that you've taken to come over and, talk to us and be a part of this interview. Just for my own clarification, you're Clayton Knowles?
I'm Clayton, yes.
And who is?
That's Harold. That's my dad.
Okay, very good. Appreciate you.
So
coming
they
over.
tell me he's short, but
My questions, pertain to, client management and, client conflict management and ethics. Regarding conflicts that inevitably come up, do you consider yourself to be an escalator or a de-escalator of conflicts?
I think it saves the county money if you try to de-escalate conflicts. There is no point in going on the offensive if you don't have to. That's not to say that if it's a meritorious issue, that you shouldn't litigate it or take it a little bit further. But there are times in any case or any action that comes in front of the board, whether it be a lawsuit, whether it be a challenge to some sort of administrative decision, so a land use or zoning issue in a quasi-judicial manner. If there's a situation where you can formulate a reasonable path forward for, say, an applicant who's looking to change their use designation for their property from rural to rural residential, that's probably not going to happen, but just for the sake of argument, if that's something that can legally be done, right, within the confines of the law, then I would advise you take the shorter route. It saves you time, it saves you money, it saves you hassle. If you're involved in a lot of unnecessary litigation, and frankly, we have had and have some clients that are like that. Some people just want to be, acrimonious. They don't want to solve problems. They want to find ways to continue to do that and drag things out. But that's not, in my opinion, that's not appropriate to the citizens. It's not appropriate to the board, and that's certainly not appropriate to a fiscally constrained county. So I view myself as a de-escalator. That has just sort of been how I've lived my life and run my practice. But again, I think it depends on the circumstances of the case. How meritorious is it? What is the likelihood of success? And even then, if you have a situation where we have a lot of employment cases where the actual exposure for the client, if they get sued for employment discrimination or some sort of 1983 civil rights violation, that if they go to court, the person may only get $10,000. But because of the way the statute is set up, the attorney comes in and bills $200,000 in attorney's fees on top of that. That causes you a problem. So your exposure is only 10. And I won't name, names of attorneys, but certain attorneys, they come in and they do an offer of judgment, proposal for settlement, or they are statutorily entitled to attorney's fees. Your exposure goes from 10 to 210, right? So a lot of times, I'd say most times it's beneficial to try and find a reasonable path forward.
Yep. Thank you. How do you identify and handle potential conflicts of interest in serving as a private attorney on retainer for a public entity such as Jackson County Board of County Commissioners? And would you be comfortable signing a confidentiality agreement prior to starting, should your firm be selected?
I'll take the second part of that question first. I think a confidentiality agreement is probably going to be difficult to keep confidential within the sunshine. So that might be a little bit of an issue. I don't think we'd have a problem signing it, but it's just gonna, everything we do for the most part outside of an executive session or shade meeting is gonna be public record, right? So I don't have any problem signing that, just knowing that it's just gonna be potentially disseminated to, you know, a records requester. As far as conflicts are concerned, there are certainly ways to firewall things if there is a conflict. I don't believe that there would be any conflicts that we would have that might interfere with our ability to adequately represent this board. But typically when you have an ethical conflict, I had a decent amount of family members that are from Gaston County, and sometimes they would come in and try and get a land use designation change. And the firm that I was with at that time, we would just have to send another attorney, and I'd recuse, wouldn't talk about it, don't want to tell commissioners about it. I had a commissioner ask, well, did you recuse yourself on the planning and zoning level? Sure did, because it's my license on the line. Let's just be selfish about it, right? At the end of the day, the bar is looking at me to be the one who's ethical. It's not looking at you to tell me, well, Clayton, Harold, you all need to conflict out of this particular issue. So if that conflict arises, certainly that would be something that we take very seriously, not only just because of the ethical implications, but just that's good business, right? You can't ethically represent your client and adequately represent your client if you've got competing interests. So we probably wouldn't seek very many waivers and would be amenable to signing a confidentiality waiver pursuant to Florida statutes and sunshine law.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Branch, you recognize?
I asked you a couple of questions about billing,
Yes, sir.
probably very important.
A little bit.
Availability and caseload management. How do you ensure cost-effective legal services for the county? And what strategies do you use to manage and control cost? Use
So-
for paralegals.
So we don't bill for our paralegals' time. That's just our practice. We don't bill obviously from portal to portal, as you all know, we're from Tallahassee. So coming over, it's just a nice drive, hop on the phone, listen to Sirius radio. That's one thing. Another thing is also, there are things that we encounter as attorneys that I don't want to say you can just glance over, but there are things that are going to be somewhat standard. So if you get a standard contract, a standard term contract that's already been approved by the state, you're not changing that. You just need to make sure that the dates, signatures, times, and the deliverables are correct. If it's something where you're preparing an ordinance or you're drafting something, say, for instance, I was looking at your strategic plan for like the local fuels option surtax. That has to be something that needs a fine tooth comb. You've got to make sure that the statute is adequately complied with. So the first step is make sure that those things that require a multitude of attention are given that attention. Those things that aren't, they aren't. The other thing is it's not good business to just bill for everything. My old man likes to say, pigs eat, hogs get slaughtered, right? So it's not our goal to come in here and get rich off of this. I mean, we enjoy what we do. I enjoy working with him for the most part. But he wants to stay married to my mom, so we can't really do too much.
There you go.
But, you know, I think that in all kidding aside, you have to first have a good relationship with staff, so there are no surprises. So there aren't things that slip through the cracks. So, you know, that means meeting with the manager, having sort of regular office hours where we're here. And again, if you call me or any of the commissioners call me, any of the staff calls me, it's not something that is automatically billable. I don't want you to feel like you have to just get off the phone because, oh, this lawyer is running up the till. You know, every minute that I talk to him is $2 or $3 an hour. And, you know, I just need to get my question answered. So a lot of it is just deciding what to bill. If I've got to be in a seat on the dais, obviously that's something that is billable because I can't be doing something else. But if I'm in my car driving over here, frankly, I'm probably not going to remember to go drop that in the building software because, you know, I just got a lot going on and it's not going to further our relationship with the local government and further our relationship with the board and quite frankly, do the citizens here a favor. I mean, again, you all are a fiscally constrained county. That's not a knock. That's just a reality. So if we're billing out of the wazoo, then that's money that isn't going to economic development. That's money that isn't going to create housing. That's money that can't go to maybe the creation of a CRA or something like that. The other thing I think, and again, this is just sort of me looking at things that I've seen and looking at your meetings, looking at your strategic plan, looking at your comprehensive plan, you know, there was a desire that I saw amongst the board to try and get in better rules of procedure, right? So we did that in Gadsden County. We have a 3-2-1 rule. So it's 3 minutes of debate, 2 minutes of rebuttal, and 1 minute of closing, right? So condensing the meeting times and making sure that we're not going off on tangents. If you codify that, and if the parliamentarian actually makes sure that it's done correctly, then you can reduce the amount of time that you're in here and reduce your financial exposure for an attorney being present. So some of that, frankly, is going to be on you all as the electeds to sort of allow us to come in and figure out where the different parts are. Another thing, just quickly to sort of do with the presence is I love to hop in the car and drive. I bought a fast car and it's fun, and I-10 is great. So, you know, I enjoy that. I enjoy liaising with folks. I enjoy, you know, having those conversations. I enjoy local government law. So for me, I don't want to say it's not about the money. It's always about the money. We all have families and kids and bills and things like that. But if you truly enjoy what you do, then a lot of times it doesn't feel like work, and you just are able to really do it in a meaningful way.
The second part of that question is do you plan to staff the position of partners, associates, or who would be the attorney representative?
So I'd be the lead attorney. And then, of course, Dad would be sort of backing me up, I guess you could say. You know, again, I've got 2 young kids, and they always have this and that and all these little things, and they're always sick. So, you know, if I can't attend a meeting in person, then Dad would attend the meeting in person. But I would be your direct point of contact, but you can contact either one of us.
What is your billing structure for retainer work?
So we submitted in our RFP was just an hourly rate. I can tell you for different governments, we've had different arrangements. And I think whatever's amenable to the board is certainly going to be amenable to us. I think what works best for local governments is a hybrid. So you have a monthly retainer that gets you a certain number of hours. If you don't exceed those hours, then you don't pay any extra money. So, you know, we would have to negotiate that, obviously, but that is and then, so let's say that's 40 hours a month. That was what it was when I was in Gadsden County. At 40 hours a month, if you can't get it done, then there's additional fees that are on top of that. But again, you want to try and minimize that. So not every phone call, not every little email, not every little thing, because I'm taking away from some of my day having to go and input all of those things, right? So for us, you will have 2 seasoned attorneys, right, that are a little bit further away than you may like, but that are right there when it comes to being active. I think COVID changed a lot for us in terms of Zoom, in terms of phone calls, in terms of FaceTime. You know, you can be all over the world and take a phone call. You can be all over the world and attend the meeting if it absolutely is necessary. I think a lot of you probably remember Hurricane Michael, and certainly with COVID. I mean, I was serving on the canvassing board in the supervisor of elections office, and at the same time, you know, attending a meeting virtually because I needed to be in that meeting, needed to be over here. So a lot of it is just making sure that you all are adequately protected, but there are no associates or no junior lawyers. It's just 2 of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad.
Save the best
Sound
one.
like you've been on your feet for a long time, which is very commendable in my opinion. If we have urgent emergency legal issues that might arise outside our business hours, you will be able to handle that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Every one of you and all staff will have my personal cell phone number. Actually, I don't know if he's still here. Keith Maddox used to work over in Gadsden with us. I think he was or still is your EMS director. We work really well together. I love going to lunch. So
I do too.
You know, if that, I love going to lunch. So, you know, I'm more than happy to do that. The only thing I'll say is I usually have to put 2 people to bed around like 8 to 9. Sometimes that stretches into 10. So other than that, and again, just family emergencies, normal family things. One of the 2 of us will be
You're
together.
telling us how old you are now.
My bald spot is probably telling you how old I am, but yes, aside from that, one of the 2 of us will be readily available.
Thank you. But are you from Gadsden County originally?
Our family is originally from Midway. So, and well, my dad's family is from Midway and my
I
mom's
got some
family
very
is from St.
good
Clair.
friends there. It's very loyal and very good people.
Yes, Dad's been in Gretna for 42 years. They also do some Midway work with the city manager. I think they have their own. city
Morris
attorney.
Young.
Sheriff Young, yeah, Sheriff Young is good
As
people.
good as there is.
I'm sorry?
He's as good as there is.
Good people.
That's my opinion. But you would use technology to ensure a efficient workflow, communication. Just you've more or less answered that, but probably double up on it.
So technology's tough. I mean, you've got the influx of AI, but you can't use that as a substitute. That's more of an assistant. We don't use that too much. But again, getting back to Commissioner Branch's question was, if I've got something where I can say, hey, I can tell ChatGPT, draft me a base letter, and it takes 2 minutes to do that, and then I've got to spend 10 or 20 minutes just sort of tweaking it and making sure that it's ready to go out. Again, that cuts my workload down and it cuts your financial exposure down. There's the other lawyers' tools, Westlaw, Next, and LexisNexis and things like that. That's just basic case research, but I still find that the in-person approach and the direct approach, I don't like to text back and forth. All right. I just, that just, it grinds my gears because, even if it just makes it more difficult because when you are trying to convey something, if I'm speaking to you via text, you're not hearing my tone, you're not hearing my inflection. You may think, wow, this guy just said some really, really mean stuff to me. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, no, I was just trying to say, well, what do you want to do? And you're like, well, what you want to do. So it's a lot easier if we're just all on the same accord and we're able to speak to one another. So technology is great. I mean, if in emergencies, my kids were born, I was Zooming from the hospital, but I don't like to do that. I kind of like to be more in person and present. I think you use technology when all else fails because technology will fail you. So.
Well, we thank you very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate y'all applying, asking, coming. We appreciate your input. It's been very well taken.
Thank you for having us.
We appreciate you. And, you tell all my friends over at Gadsden County, they good people.
Will do. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Y'all have a nice day.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, this will be our third interview.
Yes,
After the third one, would the commission want to take a short break?
If that'd be okay. But I thought about that, for various reasons. The older you get, the worse it gets.
Okay.
That'll be fine. We'll, about 15 minutes when we have one more. That suits y'all. Okay. All right,
And I'm sure that Mr. Schaefer is on his way here with Mr. Brett.
And you have a short break.
Now, after the third.
After
The third one. Well, Mr. Crutchfield, I think.
He'll be back in time. We'll drive off without it.
Give him a minute.
He's on his way.
Yes, tell him to come on.
He's on his way, Westwood.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And if I could, Mr. Westbrook.
We got
If I could.
Dr. Spire.
Yes, sir, but just so Mr. Nolan's, for his information, the county has prepared 10 scripted questions, but the Board of County Commissioners has the latitude to ask any additional questions, but for evaluation purposes, we have 10 scripted questions.
Yes, sir.
And
Go ahead with Dr. Spire.
And, Dr. Spires has asked if I would, read the two questions that, were assigned to District One, Commissioner, his district. The first question, was what specific experience do you have, advising local county governments, particularly areas like land use, procurement, public finance, public safety, and employment law?
Okay. On the land use procurement, could you repeat that?
What is your experience in the areas of advising local governments in the area of land use,
Okay.
procurement, public finance?
Yes, sir. I've been fortunate to work with Holmes County for the past 5 years, and we've recently revamped their land use plan per Florida statutes. We have finalized that specifically for land use and development and the LDR plan and comp plan. As far as procurement policy goes, I would be happy. I would make it a commitment to review y'all's procurement policy, make sure I'm familiar with it. Our procurement policy over there is, of course, they have set designations for anything under 30,000, anything over 30,000. There's different ways to purchase assets, and I'm assuming that's what Dr. Spires was asking.
Yes.
So I would need to see y'all's internal procurement policy that y'all have in-house, and then make sure it match that up with the Florida statutes, of course. And what was the other one, Dr. Spires said?
Employment law, public safety.
Okay. Under employment law, I am a little green. I've learned a lot in the past 10 years. I've been practicing for the past 14 years, but I've got good outside counsel that I normally will reach out to. Right now I'm working on two workman's comp cases. I'm not ashamed to ask for help. You can't know everything with employment law, but you know how to find the right answer, and we try to thread the needle and be very careful with that. That's a very serious thing, but I do have experience in hiring and firing, the basic FMLA type stuff. But if it gets really deep and I need outside counsel, I've got contacts, and I'm not afraid to pick up the phone and call and get a second opinion.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Nolan, the next question is, can you describe a complex legal issue or case you had to handle for a public entity and strategy you used and how you resolved it?
Okay. We just resolved one here recently in the does mediation count? Where would that be? Okay. Well, it was a long-standing case. I'm sure I wonder if I need to talk about it. We recently resolved an issue over at Lake Cassidy, in Holmes County in the southwest corner. Could you repeat that question?
As far as identify a complex case, how you handled it, and
Okay.
Strategy to resolve.
Surrounding the county case. Okay. I inherited that case. It had been going on for, I guess it was 8 years before I inherited the case. So I was on the back burner and this was an issue where about 10 years ago, the county entered into a lease agreement that they shouldn't have. That carried forward yet a third party that purchased the boat ramp by the lake unknowingly about the lease. So there was contention between the landowner and the county, and there was a lawsuit there. And then there was an issue with the boat ramp down to the road down to the boat ramp. So we successfully mediated the end of that lawsuit. Our insurance company is through PRM. Specifically, they were very involved with that helped. So it was 2 outstanding cases. We won the road down to the boat landing, but the issue was surrounding a lease agreement that should not have ever been entered into. And we were going to court on that, but we were able to successfully mediate a purchase price. It was really a buyout versus a land purchase, but we resolved that. There were 2 sides of that. You can't please everyone in the county, and if you're pleasing everyone, you're not doing the right thing. But that's on the back burner now that they own a boat ramp down to the lake that they're trying to figure out. But that was a most recent one. I have been involved with several other mediations where wrongful termination cases that never really got to trial. But that's the most recent example I have. And if y'all got any questions specifically about that, I know you've got the interim county attorney. I'd be happy to
And each commissioner will ask 2 questions.
Okay.
Mr. Crutchfield, you recognize?
Okay, mine is, what is your experience with litigation involving government entities, including specified experience with trial and disposition, and experience with the Florida Administration Law Act procedures?
Okay. And I'm sorry, Mr. Crutchfield, would you mind repeating that again? I had a hard time hearing you. I
Okay.
apologize.
What is your experience with litigation involving government interests and including specified experience with trials and dispositions and experience with the Florida Administration Law Act procedures?
Yes, sir. I've been blessed where with my few government entities that I do represent, that we haven't had a lot of trial issues. We normally settle them before trial. So pre-trial procedures, I don't have as much experience as I'd like to have. But like I said, I've probably got two or three cases that we finally formally took to trial. I always try to, if we can avoid that, that's the best case in my mind. Oftentimes, if it's outside of my coverage, I do rely heavily on our insurance appointed attorneys that might be outside of my purview. Like I said, I've got experience with a civil trial, but nothing specifically that I can give you that I've taken all the way to a jury trial with a government entity. Yes, sir.
Okay. Second is, how do you approach communicating complex legal issues to non-legal audience, such as county commissioners, department heads, or community groups?
So how do I communicate?
Yeah.
With legal issues?
Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, if there's an issue, I want to make sure I fully understand what the issue is. Make sure I research the law to get the best advice that I can. As far as communicating, I hope I understood your question, Mr. Crutchfield. Every one of them, every commissioner that I have has my personal cell phone. I don't text, just for sunshine law purposes. I email, pick up the phone and call someone if you got a question. I'm available 24/7. I'd prefer if it's late, not to get on the phone too late, but I have been many a time in the driveway on my phone with other commissioners in the past. So, I hope I answered your question, Mr. Crutchfield,
Yeah.
as far as communication, but I just want to make sure I fully understood the issue and then break it down, as best I could, to whether it's a commissioner, whether it's a citizen, with y'all's permission, if you want me to communicate with a citizen. As in a kind as a manner as I can, and to do the right thing and make sure we're doing the right thing. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Donald, you recognize?
Thank you, Chairman. So just so I know, and I apologize for not personally knowing you, but you are Nathan Nolan.
Yes, sir.
Nathan is your first name.
Yes, sir.
Where are you from, Nathan?
I'm from Graceville, Florida, born and raised there. Yes, sir.
Reside in Graceville?
Yes, sir. State line. Yes, sir. 4 generations.
Very good. I appreciate you coming over and showing your interest in potentially being selected as the county attorney. I appreciate you taking the time to come over and take part in this interview. A couple of questions that I have pertaining to conflict management and ethics. Inevitably, conflicts occur. Do you consider yourself to be an escalator or a de-escalator of conflicts?
Yes, sir. I would consider myself being a de-escalator. But I have learned over the past few years to tell the truth, and not always tell the truth, but no matter what, if that escalates, we got to tell the truth no matter what. But as far as day to day, whether that's good or bad, I try to de-escalate and be as kind as possible and transparent while telling the truth. Sometimes they'll need to hear the truth and not what they want to hear. But you can do that in a kind manner and de-escalate a situation without it.
Well, that kind of answers
Yes, sir.
the follow-up question that I have, but I'll let you expound on that a little bit if you want to. Can you give an example of how you would handle a disagreement with a county official over a legal matter?
Yes, sir. That would depend on the matter, but first and foremost, I would hope that I have the opportunity to speak, know what the matter's about and be able to talk about it authoritatively, but speak with them one-on-one, not trying to embarrass anyone or say anything out of turn, in a public forum, which I do fully understand sunshine law. Everything we have to do is to be transparent, but I would hope that if there's an issue, there'd be a good communication level, that there'd be trust, that we could talk before and not try to embarrass anyone or say anything out of turn against a commissioner or other public official. I'm always the kind that just to look someone in the eye and let's have a conversation before it gets to the point where there could be, which I know y'all do a great job. I know things come up on the spot and some things have to be addressed that way. But if there's any foresight ahead of time, I would hope that we could have a conversation ahead of time and not.
I'll be blindsided.
Yes, sir. That would be ideal.
How do you identify and handle potential conflicts of interest when serving as a private attorney on a retainer for a public entity such as Jackson County Board of County Commissioners? And would you be comfortable signing a confidentiality agreement prior to starting, should you be selected as our attorney?
Okay. As far as handling conflict of interest, we have a routine checks that we normally have, that most law firms have, first and foremost, but there is a conflict of interest. We try to head that off at the pass as early as we can.
Mm-hmm.
To avoid any disclosure of material that we shouldn't know of, to protect all parties involved. And on the conflict of interest side, Commissioner Donifred, could you repeat that first question?
Now, the second part of that question is, would you be comfortable signing a confidentiality agreement prior to starting if selected as our attorney?
Yes, sir. I would not have a problem with that. I do represent quite a few citizens in Jackson County, but I wouldn't have a problem signing any type of confidentiality agreement or non-disclosure or solicitation, whatever agreement y'all have for me to sign.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bryant, you recognize?
Thank you. Got a couple of questions. It's about billing availability.
Yes, sir.
Caseload management. How do you ensure cost-effective legal services for the county, and what strategies do you use to manage and control costs, like paralegals, alternate fee arrangements? Do you plan to staff this position? Do you have a partner?
I do not have a partner, no, sir. I'm of counsel with a law firm out of Dothan, Armstrong and Jordan, Ben Armstrong and Chase Jordan.
So you would be the.
I would be the.
You would be the man.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's the last part of it, but as far as the cost effective, what strategies do you use as far as the billing?
Yes, sir. And I hope I understood your question, but we bill in good faith. I don't know if y'all had my packet in front of you, but I would bill more for clerical tasks. I typically don't do a good job of billing. I think most smaller attorneys don't. But I would commit to bill in good faith. If there was substantial work product or substantial legal work that needed to be done, I would bill my rate of hour that I put in the packet. But as far as clerical work, my experience hadn't, I don't know what y'all define as clerical, but if it's picking up the phone or with my other county client, there's not a whole lot of clerical work that I'm aware of that I'm doing. I'm coming to the meetings, I'm preparing most of the documents, all the documents really that they asked me to prepare. So I would just commit to y'all to bill in good faith, and if there's an issue, y'all tell me about it, and we would fix the issue.
Do you use paralegals?
I do not, no, sir. I do all of my own work. I do have a secretary that helps me to answer phone calls from time to time, but typically, y'all would have my personal cell phone number and could reach me at any time.
Is your office in Gracefield? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's what I thought. What is your billing structure as far as a retainer? And how transparent is that process?
Yes, sir. And I've I'm an attorney, of course, and we're always subject to people who train us, and I bid that I wouldn't have a retainer. I'm happy if y'all want me to have a retainer, I'd be pleased to do that, but we bill in good faith and hope that if we do good work product, we'll get paid. I don't mean to undercut anyone else that needs a retainer, wants a retainer, but as a matter of practice, I don't use retainers, and I didn't bid for a retainer. And what was your second question, Mr. Secretary?
As far as the transparency in the
Yes, sir.
process you submit,
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to, if y'all get a bill from me, it would have a line item for what work that I did, and if it was acceptable to y'all, we normally would just bill once a month. We bill a month in behind. That's how I do my other clients. I'm fine with doing it by the hour, not to exceed a certain rate for y'all. That's what I put in my packet. If y'all want to enter in negotiations with that, or if y'all have more questions about that, but I found that if I bill by the hour and we get the job done quickly, we're not really excessively billing, and I'm not gonna bill for every call that I get from y'all. I put in my packet that I do bill in 10-minute increments, but I've been on many a phone call that I wish I'd have billed, but I don't. Yes, sir. So it's mainly billing for, in my mind, substantial work product, which I know y'all have y'all's own procurement officer, and that's a blessing. I prepare most of the RFPs, RFQs, any type of document normally I prepare for the other county that I work with. But I'm happy to be as involved on the billing side or as little as y'all need me. I would be available as much or as little. And if it was as little, that would be fine, even if it's just someone that y'all want to call and bounce an idea off of.
thank you, sir.
Sound like you got some water well contracting in your background there somewhere. But anyway, that happens a lot with a
Yes,
lot of people.
Yes.
Emergency or legal issues that might arise. I think you've already answered that for me. You said 24/7 on your phone.
Yes, sir.
So if you want to expand on that, that's fine. If you don't, well, I'll
Yes.
take that and I'll move to my next question.
Yes, sir. I'd be happy, like I said, I'll give y'all each my cell phone number. I try not to text if possible, just because.
I don't know how.
Yes, sir. As y'all know, text messages are subject to sunshine, and not that you're trying not to be transparent. It's just better to pick the phone up or email someone.
Yes.
But I'm available on special meetings. I do have other clients, but it would be a blessing if we have a 24-hour notice, which I think we have to anyway to hold special meetings. So.
Well, I would assume we'd be up close to the top there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Technology, you've used that to expand or to on the workflow or to cut it back? Would it be economical for us?
As far as technology?
Yes, sir. Using technology, yes, sir.
Well, I'm very familiar with technology. I'm comfortable with it. I'm not sure exactly what you mean as far as legal research.
Well, just on billing, on
Oh.
getting something done, the efficiency of
Okay.
it.
Yes, sir. I mean, I try to turn around and work obviously everything's different. Every issue is different. It might be more imminent than another issue, but if y'all say, hey, Nate, we need this by this time or this deadline, I feel confident that I can meet that. But as far as technology goes, I know Chat GPT is a thing now. I know how to use it. I don't use it. I think there's some fallibility to that, but it sure is a blessing sometimes when it gets you a starting point.
Good to have your own mind there about that.
Yes, sir. Yes.
What's wrong with it?
It's a good starting point, but there's,
I know your family, from years gone by, Greg, and all your
Okay.
relatives. I know your daddy, all of them.
Yes, sir.
Long time.
We
Well,
were,
thank you for coming.
okay.
Commissioner Crutchfield wants to ask you a question. That's
I
fine.
think you said you was on the Holmes County Commissioner.
I do represent Holmes County. Yes, sir.
I know our meetings is on second Tuesday morning
Yes, sir.
at 9 o'clock normally, unless it's a special change of time, normal.
Yes.
And the night meeting is on the fourth Tuesday night. Does that conflict with their meetings?
We meet on the first and third Tuesday
Okay.
of the month. Yes, sir.
Sure enough.
Anybody have anything else? Down the road?
No, sir, I think you answered everything.
Mr. Administrator,
That's-
Mr. Crutchfield,
Don't have anything else. I just wanted.
Mr. Clerk. We thank you. We
Yes, sir.
appreciate you coming. We're in the business to hire one. We're just gonna take us a little while.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we thank you and, we appreciate your presentation and coming forward with us.
We appreciate the opportunity to even be in the mix. It's a blessing to be part of Jackson County. So,
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
thank y'all.
Well, it's like 15-minute recess. But needs to.
Let me go out there.
That's all right. We should.
15 minutes.
Hell, I think. Run Sam more money. Well,
Well, you gotta go. You gotta.
I had to take them out. I had lost that count. But that's why I learned so much about it.
I was thinking we're taking a 15 minutes. I could have waited, but.
That answers a lot of questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything going on, you can't get it.
I've talked to you since then.
We appreciate it.
We
I
had to
call
wait
it
for
back
her.
over. My underling, one. Here we go.
Yeah,
All right, bring one in.
We're bringing them right now.
Okay.
The next,
That'll be just fine with me.
the next interview will be with, Ms. Blankenship, Jordan.
That'll be fine. Yeah, we're not gonna get talk.
I think they want to make sure that y'all were ready before they invited them back.
I was ready when I got here. Must have administrated. Once I got here, I was fine.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I think we all know one another here.
I'm pretty sure.
Ms. Jordan, I've been asked to read this, first comment is that, Board of County Commissioners has prepared 10 scripted questions. However, that does not, preclude or eliminate the ability of each commissioner to ask follow-up questions.
Okay.
And, on behalf of Dr. Spires, because he is attending remotely, he has asked me to read the 2 questions that were, that he was going to read for himself. So, if you're okay with it, we're going to just jump right in.
Okay.
What specific experience do you have advising local or county governments, particularly in areas like land use, procurement, public finance, public safety, and employment law?
So I have been practicing specifically for local governments since 2011, when I was first appointed as the city attorney for the city of Chipley. The next year I was appointed assistant county attorney for Jackson County, followed by city attorney for the city of Vernon. I was appointed city attorney for the city of Bonifay, the city of Weewillhichka, the town of Ponce de Leon, the town of Esto, the town of Westville, and I also have represented the Campbellton-Graceville Hospital, the corporation, and the taxing district, which was a legislatively formed special district that was finally dissolved last legislative year. My practice has been exclusively devoted to local government since 2018. And I've handled matters ranging everything that you listed, land use, procurement, general litigation, specialized litigation, particularly with special districts. As a part of my work with the city of Bonifay, we formed, along with Holmes County and Washington County, the Highway 79 corridor, which was a unique special district. I think it's probably the best way to describe it, where all 3 governments came together to get a job growth grant to bring water and sewer service south of Bonifay into Holmes and Washington counties in a way that benefited both counties and the city of Bonifay.
The next question on behalf of Dr. Spires would be, can you describe a complex legal issue or case you handled for a public entity and strategy you used to resolve it?
Probably the most complex issue that I've ever dealt with as a local government attorney was putting the Campbellton-Graceville Hospital into bankruptcy. Again, the corporation was created by a special act of the legislature back in the 1960s. And this was the very first time that a government adjacent, we'll call it, entity had ever been authorized to file for Chapter 11. There is a specialized municipal bankruptcy, that's Chapter 9. It requires the consent of the governor. In Florida history, that's never happened. So this was a particularly complex issue. This came about after the district side of the hospital, which was composed of governor-appointed trustees, contracted out management of the hospital to a private entity that essentially was running an organized crime scheme, resulting in the need to get an emergency injunction a year later and secure control of the hospital back into the hands of the trustees. Within 6 months, there were over 20 different lawsuits filed against the hospital. And if you're familiar with the Campbell and Graceville Hospital, you know that it's very tiny and it was already struggling. That's why the management company had come in. So we did have to bring in bankruptcy counsel. I was not allowed to serve as counsel for the debtor, but I was retained as special counsel throughout the bankruptcy, which finally did close last year.
Go ahead, Mr. Gretz, please recognize.
Okay, what is spirit with litigation involving government interests, including special experience with trial and dispositions and experience with the Florida Administration Law and Act procedure?
So I handle all of the litigation for all of my other municipalities, as well as the litigation that I handled previously for Jackson County. Throughout the years, I've had other attorneys working with me, and I do apologize that I meant to extend Mr. Goldhagen's regrets. He's in arbitration this week and could not be here. So I have pretty extensive experience with litigation in pretty much every area that touches local government. The last time that we dealt with an administrative proceeding under Chapter 120 here in Jackson County was back when I was the assistant county attorney. This would have been in 2012. But before I went into private practice, I worked for the Department of Corrections, and I did routinely practice before DOA, which is the Division of Administrative Hearings. So it's been a while since I've been before DOA, but I do have experience with administrative proceedings.
Okay. All right, the second question is, how do you approach communication in complex legal issues to a non-legal audience, such as county commissioner, department head, or community groups?
So I tend to take my direction from the client. Every municipality that I work with is different. Everyone's needs are different. Their organizational structures are different. Here in Jackson County, I worked under a total of 7 administrators, and every administrator had a very different way of operating. Some wanted very formal communications, such as a formalized memorandum. Some wanted just a quick email. Some just wanted to text. Again, I take my direction from the client and try to communicate however they ask.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Donafro, you recognize.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Well, first of all, Michelle, thank you for coming over and your continued interest in serving the county as counsel.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. A couple of questions regarding conflict management and ethics. Do you consider yourself to be an escalator or a de-escalator of conflicts? And as a follow-up to that, could you give an example of how you would handle a disagreement with a county official over a legal matter?
So that is a really interesting question. I would probably put myself in the category of de-escalator in general, in that I typically advise not to bring me in until it's absolutely necessary, as far as if there's an internal dispute or a dispute with a vendor. I usually advise that lawyers, we don't typically make things better. Especially in local government, because it's very difficult to work for 5 different bosses. That's typical everywhere I go right now. But anytime that you have to answer to that many people, there's always going to be some conflict that you have to deal with. But I do tend to try to stay back and kind of stay in my lane, so to speak. I don't like taking on the role of a sixth commissioner. I don't like making decisions or inserting myself into what should be administrative or board decision processes. The role of the attorney is to provide information and guidance to the decision makers so that they can make a fully informed decision. The attorneys are not elected. We're not here to represent the people from the standpoint of, having been elected into office. We do represent the public. Ultimately, when you look at the organizational chart, we all ultimately do answer to the public, but we're not elected to make decisions for them.
Well, thank you. Second question is, how do you identify and handle potential conflicts of interest when serving as a private attorney on a retainer for a public entity such as Jackson County? And I guess the second part of that question, which is maybe not totally applicable, but I'll ask it anyway. Would you be comfortable signing a confidentiality agreement prior to starting as the attorney for the Jackson County Board of County Commissioners?
The confidentiality agreements kind of throw me off guard. I'm not sure that that would be enforceable under Florida law. I mean, local governments, just like all other clients, are entitled to their confidentiality and privilege in general. I've never been asked as a local government attorney to sign a confidentiality. Except in the realm of economic development and the specific statutory protections related to economic development agencies and those employees, they sometimes can utilize confidentiality agreements, but I don't know about a general confidentiality agreement.
Then go back to the first part of that question. How do you identify and handle potential conflicts of interest when serving as a private attorney for a local government such as Jackson County Board of County Commissioners, if one should arise?
So because I do limit my practice solely to local government, and I don't represent any other entities within Jackson County other than the now defunct Campbellton Graceville Hospital, I've only encountered one other conflict of interest. My mother is from Graceville and has some air property in Graceville that did become the subject of a code enforcement case. I did have to step back from that when I became notified that the property was involved in code enforcement. We've had Neighbors Gibble and Nickerson under contract as backup or conflict counsel for years. And so I just referred that issue out.
With you serving a number of other local governments, have you had issues arise in the past where there's been an issue that impacted, say, the city of Bonifay and the city of Esto, where they were maybe on competing with each other on different sides of the issue? And if that would be the case, how would you handle something like that?
So the closest example that I can give you of that kind of conflict would be something like the local option gas tax. If the municipalities opted not to just follow the statutory split with the county and they wanted, to enter into and negotiate for their own interlocals, in that instance, I do have to notify each municipality that they would need to be represented separately, because I can't represent them, as you said, competing against one another. But that's typically the only kind of conflict that you would have representing multiple municipalities within a county.
Thank you.
Grant, you recognize?
Thank you. Thank you for coming. A couple of questions about the billing, availability, and caseload management. How do you ensure cost-effective legal services for the county, and what strategies do you use to manage and control cost, i.e. paralegals, alternate fee arrangements? Do you plan to staff the position with partners or associates, or who would be the attorney representing the county?
So I would be your county attorney, as that had been since 2014. The last 6 years, I've also had an associate working with me that has appeared in, I could probably count on one hand the number of times that I've had to send an associate. We did appoint Mr. Goldhaken as deputy county attorney so that he could receive the benefit of the statutory Chapter 119 protections, particularly because he assists with litigation. Code enforcement litigation can sometimes get very, very heated. And so we wanted him to be able to take advantage of that. I do utilize a paralegal for, she's a Florida registered paralegal, and I do utilize her for litigation management. You do receive a monthly litigation management spreadsheet. We hold monthly staffings so that the entire team stays on top of your litigation. You don't really have that much litigation that's not being handled by insurance appointed counsel. I think there are probably 6 active cases that were being handled solely by my firm. But I also have implemented technology that I developed myself. So there are a ton of case management or practice management programs for lawyers that exist, but there's not really one that's tailored to local government. So years ago, probably 2018, 2019, there were 18 department heads here at the county. Plus I had 6 other municipalities that I was representing, and I was getting just inundated with emails. I mean, it just, it was impossible to keep up with the incoming work, to manage it without having an assistant just literally read every single email and then create a to-do list or a task list for that. So I actually designed my own system. I coded it myself. This is the legal tracking system that was still in place as of last month. All of my other governments also use this. They complete, instead of sending me an email, and here in Jackson County, everything during Ms. Daniels' tenure, this was the process that we set up because we did change my fee structure in 2018. We can talk about that in a second, but I used to work under a flat fee, just monthly. I was paid, it was just over $6,000 a month, I think, and that covered everything. Some of the previous administrators had basically used me as a rubber stamp and were sending things to me that really didn't need legal review. It was taking an exorbitant amount of my time and was affecting the quality of my work. So I did renegotiate my contract in 2018. And as a part of that, Ms. Daniels and I created this system so that all legal requests from department heads, and again, at that time, there were 18 department heads, those requests were filtered through the administrator first. So she would determine whether or not the issue required legal review. And then from there, it was submitted using my form. Within my system, the person making the request, the department head, as well as Ms. Daniels, would receive an automated email with a tracking number. On my side, the assignment, because I would gather this information in a form, I would ask the department head, when do you need an answer back? What kind of answer do you need? So they had a little bullet point list that they could check off, whether they needed a formal memo, an informal memo, a contract review, just general legal research, or something else. They would upload the documents to the form, and all of that was automated on my side, automatically added to my calendar. Whatever due date they put in, I would get a reminder on my calendar as well as in my Google Tasks. And that system worked really, really well. It took a system that could not be managed. I mean, like I said, the number of emails, this was right after Hurricane Michael. It was, I mean, no human being, working alone could manage that. But it took an unmanageable system into something that was very manageable. We also began work over the next 2 years to develop standardized contracts for your procurement department. There's a lot of waste, a lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted resources when a local government entity doesn't have standardized contracts for services, technology, that sort of thing. It can take hours to go through a vendor contract that might be hundreds of pages long versus presenting the vendor up front with, this is the county's contract. If you'd like to do business with us, these are the terms. And that really, really cut down on the amount of legal work, as well as the potential for disputes or just confusion with the vendor. And I thought ran a really tight ship, if you will. We were able to keep a balance between adequate legal review and the economics of the county.
What is, you probably already said this, but what is your billing structure for retainer work?
So I proposed two different structures. The first structure that I proposed would allow me to pay my staff market rate, which I currently am not able to do. I don't really like that fee structure. It's more difficult from my standpoint, from a billing standpoint. I also rarely require more than 10 hours a month on a specific project. So I had proposed to stay flat, and I based this on my hourly rate increase times the number of hours that I've worked consistently over the last 3 years for the county to come up with that $12,000 a month. And then you would have litigation on top of that.
Okay.
Alternatively, I offered to continue the fee structure that I had been working under, which was $1,500 a month to attend your 2 regular meetings. Everything is hourly beyond that. I currently am billing at $275 an hour. My associate attorney is $225 an hour. The paralegal is at $150. Occasionally, we would need clerical assistance. That was $50 an hour. And that would be situations where I had been given, a very old document, a very old ordinance that had to be retyped. I don't charge you for mailing out envelopes or preparing packets or that sort of thing. And again, that would just be, cost saving to you.
Thank you. Sure.
You have anything else?
Have a-
You have, and I'm sure you do, and I think you've already answered these questions that I've got, but anyway, availability to urgent emergency legal issues that come out of the time of the regular day.
So because I do limit my work to only local government, I do represent 6 other municipalities across the Panhandle. But that means that I'm very much able to respond when I'm called. A lot of times, if you call me, you'll get a text that says I'm on the other line, but I'm going to call you as soon as I get off of that
And
phone.
you said you created technology to handle all that stuff to save time and more efficient and money.
I did. Some of the communities that I work in, unfortunately, have to make decisions every month about who's going to get paid and who isn't. I mean, I'm accustomed to working with local governments that work on much, much tighter budgets than the county does. I mean, I do recognize we're still a fiscally constrained
Yeah.
county, but
We're on a tight budget here now. So why did you not want to disclose your pending legal action against the Board of Jackson County Commissioners?
I'm not sure what pending legal action you're talking about.
Not sure what, I didn't hear you.
I'm not sure what pending legal action you're talking about.
Well, then you don't have an answer, is that right?
I'm not sure what you're asking about.
Well, it's, you was on a, if I remember right, you were on a investigative review of people in this county, Board of County Commissioners. And that's really what it was, the pending legal action that you threatened or said. It was,
Could I jump in, Mr. Westbrook?
yes, sir, you sure can.
I guess it would be the filing of the letter with the Florida Association of Counties, our insurance carrier.
So do I have your permission to discuss this?
No, just why did you not disclose that in your package to the county?
What are you talking about?
The request for proposals included a requirement to include any pending litigation that might be pending with a client, and you did not disclose that in the package you submitted.
I don't have pending litigation
Okay.
against the county.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. That includes, Liz, you got something else, Commissioner, you got something else?
No, sir.
That concludes. Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Next applicant would be Mr. Marcus Green. Is Tyler Williams Green in? Mr. Green and Mr. Bigelow.
Okay. Wow.
Good.
Good morning.
Good morning or afternoon now.
I haven't eaten lunch, so.
It's still morning to you then.
Hey, Ms. Green, one thing that I'm supposed to disclose to each one of the applicants is that there are 10 scripted questions by each, and 2 will be to, each commissioner will ask 2, but it doesn't prohibit each commissioner from asking any additional questions.
Sure.
And I've been asked by Dr. Spires to ask the first 2 questions that Mr. Spires was on the list for Mr. Spires. And I'm going to jump right in if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What specific experience do you have advising local county governments, city government, particularly in areas like land use, procurement, public finance, public safety, and employment law?
Okay. For the first 10 years that I practiced, I helped and represented the town of Sneeds, and for 6 of those years, I helped, or I did represent the town of Campbellton. Asked about land use, it would just be, as far as specifics, I can't remember specific examples, but as it would come up in town meetings, we would address how to deal with land use issues, and procurement. Same thing, it's just as they came up, we dealt with them as they happened. And then employment, I've never had an employment law issue come up as I was representing a local government. But I'm familiar with the employment laws and could provide any advice as needed.
Okay. The second question on behalf of Dr. Spires is, can you describe a complex legal issue or case you handled for a public entity and the strategy you used to resolve?
Now, I can't think of a complex issue I had as I was representing them. Like I said, the public entities that I've represented were Sneeds and Campbellton, and they were pretty straightforward. I can't think of anything complex that came up in either of those situations. I can describe complex legal issues I've handled in other areas, but
Yeah, go ahead.
well, for instance, recently I had a client in Panama City Beach that the beach and or their contractor had been using their property, and we filed an inverse case and were successful in having them compensated for the use of their property during that time. But that was a complex issue.
Okay. What is your experience with litigation involving government interests, including special experience with trials and disposition, and experience with the Florida administrative law and procedures?
Okay, I do have extensive litigation experience involving public entities. As I said, I represented Sneeds and Campbellton. I also worked for DOT for 6 years, and in that time, I took more parcels than anybody in the state did. And that was in representing the Department of Transportation. I've also had lawsuits against local governments. In my first 10 years, I had lawsuits against Calhoun County and Holmes County and various ones. And then more recently, like I said, got open cases against public entities. So from the other side, I have extensive experience in local government law and litigation. You asked about depositions. Depositions are a regular part of what I do in the public defender's office. They're also a regular part of what I do in civil practice with Perry and Young. In depositions, I believe I just deposed Mr. Donovan within the last year on a criminal case. So I do have extensive deposition experience. And then you asked about administrative law. While I was representing the town of Sneeds, there was an administrative issue that came up with their city manager at the time that I had to represent the town at an administrative hearing. So yeah, I do have experience in that as well.
Okay, second one is, how do you approach community complex legal issues to a non-legal audience such as county commissioner, department head, or community groups?
Well, I mean, there's an old saying that if you can't explain something to a fifth grader, then you don't really understand it. I think that what's important is to be able to break down the legal issues into common everyday terms. I think a lot of times we as lawyers will use complex terms to make ourselves feel important, but they can always be broken down into something more simple. There's nothing in the law that couldn't be understood by anybody if you take the time to listen to what their concerns are and where their hangups are and help them get past what those hangups are so they understand the issue.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Donovan, you recognize.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Chairman.
Lead.
Marcus, I appreciate you taking the time, and showing the interest to, come over and interview for this position. It's, look forward to, the rest of your presentation. A couple of questions. You mentioned that you had done, work for DOT, or did you actually work for them directly, or were you representing them, as a private, attorney?
No, I work for them directly.
Okay.
First 10 years, I worked in a general practice here. From there, I went to DOT and I worked for them for 6 years. I was taking property and did that for 6 years. Like I said, I probably took more parcels than anybody during that time. Never lost an order of taking. I did have to clean up some order of takings other people had lost. Was able to reach a settlement on everything that I took, and every time it was something that was beneficial to my client.
Thank you. Good. A couple of questions, pertaining to conflict management and ethics. Do you consider yourself, Marcus, to be an escalator or a de-escalator of conflicts? Of course, in our world, conflicts inevitably arise, and a lot of times we lean on our attorney to help us make decisions regarding those conflicts. Do you consider yourself as an attorney to be an escalator or a de-escalator?
I think my nature is definitely to de-escalate a conflict. Just because you're adverse to somebody doesn't mean that you have to be have animosity towards that person. I think that in my field, the nature of the U.S. legal system is it's an adversarial procedure. But just because it's adversarial, you don't have to be dislike the other person. I think that you can get along with anybody and reach a amicable resolution most of the time. When you can't, I don't mind litigating. But even litigation doesn't have to be, you don't have to be rude or cruel to effectively represent your client.
Thank you. How do you identify and handle potential conflicts of interest, if they should arise when serving as a private attorney on a retainer for a public entity such as Jackson County?
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a good question. And if I were representing Jackson County, I could not represent anybody that had any kind of issue that the county may come up with. For instance, right now I'm a part-time public defender, which means I represent people in criminal cases here in Jackson County. I could not keep that job and remain with the public and take the job as Jackson County's attorney. Every week I'm deposing a Jackson County Sheriff's deputy, or And so that would be too much of a conflict for me to potentially be deposing an employee of Jackson County.
So should you be selected, then you would commit to giving up your work as a public defender?
I would. If I were selected, I would not only give up my work as a public defender, I would be walking away from Perry and Young as well. I have secured office space here in Mariana at 4431 Lafayette Street. It's a block from here. If I were given this opportunity, I couldn't exclusively represent the county, but you would be my top priority. And I'd just be a block away and a phone call.
You have anybody else that works with you?
If I were to take this position, my paralegal would come with me. She's worked with me for the last 3 years. We work well together. I trust her, and she does a good job for me. And like I said, we've got office space. She would come with me, and I'd be ready to go.
You be the primary point of contact and the primary attorney.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bryant, you recognize.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
How do you ensure cost-effective legal services for the county? And what strategies do you use to manage and control those costs?
Well, I think in areas like ours, I think it's important to keep in mind that this is not a rich area. You've got to understand that Jackson County has a budget that it has to stay under. And if you trust what the legislature and the governor are talking about, that something could be happening with that revenue fairly soon. So I think that is something to be conscientious about. Absolutely. While my proposal does include an hourly rate, it also includes a good bulk of time covered by the monthly retainer. I would anticipate that most months that would cover everything. But as far as being cost effective, I don't want to spend multiple hours on something that I could do in 1 hour. That just doesn't fit with my mindset to waste time on something just to build something instead of getting the project done and then moving on to the next project.
I think you've already answered this. Do you plan to staff the position with partners, but you would be the county attorney?
Yes, sir.
You would be who's sitting here with us. What is your billing structure for the retainer work?
I believe what I proposed was an $8,000 retainer covering 35 hours a month. Anything over that, I proposed $225 an hour.
So the 8,000 would be 35 hours a month. Anything over that would be billed separately.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I think that's it.
My turn. You've already answered this, but we'll go over it again. The availability on an emergency basis be one phone call.
Absolutely. I'll be one phone call away and not very far at all.
Using plenty of technology as you already do, I'm sure, to expedite and to make the less costly for the board.
Absolutely. The office that I have secured, most of the computer infrastructure is there. I'd have to add some to it and get the phones going again. But you can't work in today's age without using technology. You just fall behind too fast. I mean, even when I was in law school, they taught us how to do the research in the books. But it wasn't long before we put those down because the computers go so much faster. And even since then, they've gotten better. Legal research now has gotten, with AI assistance, has gotten so much quicker even than when I started in 2006.
We thank you for coming. We appreciate you applying. We're flattered that you would come and be questioned by this board. We thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate the time.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate the opportunity to be in front of
Yes,
y'all. Thank y'all very much for having me.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bigelow's on his way.
That'd be great. Thank you. Thought we get out in about 3, it might be 4. ever cut to that kind of thing, that would go on. I know.
What?
Good afternoon.
Not on food, come right up out of that microphone.
I'm sure. Mr. Bigelow, I've read this to each, applicant, but the county has prepared 10 scripted questions.
Yes, sir.
And each commissioner will ask two, but, doesn't eliminate the potential of each commissioner asking additional questions as well.
Perfect, yes, sir.
Okay, and on behalf of Dr. Spires, I've been, requested to ask the first two questions. If you're ready to jump into it, or,
I'm ready when you are, yes, sir.
okay. What is the specific experience that you have, in advising county government, particularly in areas like land use, procurement, public finance, public safety, and employment law?
It's a pretty broad question.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Specifically, my experience started in law school where you take those classes. You learn about those things in a book. You learn how to look up the case law relating to procurement, those different kinds of things. Currently, I'm involved in doing the budget with county government. There's a lot of different things with the county government as far as going through, and I wish we had there's no possibility of having a copy of the questions. Does anybody ask for that?
Hey, are you okay with that?
Just so I can. Yeah. All right. Since coming out, I've been a lawyer for about 15 years. I've done quite a bit of land use law. Anything from making up deeds, landline disputes, real estate contracts, going through probate, which deals with land use and that sort of thing. I have not ever done eminent domain, just to make you guys aware of that. That's not something I've ever ran across, but I think one of my strengths is being able to learn things quickly and apply those. Public finance and municipal government, have experience with getting multiple $1 million loans, going through the process of picking out the banks you want to go through. If the government or city council, municipality needs some sort of loan, I have experience doing that, and it's obviously multi-million-dollar deals. That's a lot of paperwork, but so I have the experience doing that. Public safety. Anytime you're dealing with public, anytime with government, which I have in the past, public safety, health, and welfare is our number one priority and concern. So just day-to-day operations, or just handling day-to-day incidences regarding public health and safety. I have ample experience doing that. Everybody gets sued from time to time. That's just part of doing business. And a lot of times when you do get sued, it has something to do with public safety. So you have to keep that in mind. Employment law, once again, dealing with employees of a municipality or county, you're going to have employment law issues. You're going to have people that get arrested. So when they get arrested, do you fire them on the spot? Well, you got to look up and see what the law says on that. You're quasi state employee. So you look at the statutes and you have to have an opportunity to be heard. Some people don't want to have that. So you have to follow some specifics regarding employment law. And there, employment laws, I could talk for 2 days about it. Public finance, we could sit here and talk for quite a while about that. But my specific experience, this is what the question asked, going through, years of law school and doing a wide range. I think you may have a copy of my resume. I've done tons and tons of different areas of law. So all the experience combined with my experience doing that for local governments, that kind of sums it up.
Mr. Bigelow, the next question I have is, can you describe a complex legal issue or case you handled for a public entity and the strategy that you used to resolve it?
One good example, maybe not the most complex case, but part of me coming and working for a governmental entity is I feel like I need to pull my weight. It's not so much what you guys can do for me, it's what I can do, for the county. One particular issue, which is a breach of contract. So you guys are probably pretty much aware of a lot of tort claims and that sort of thing go through your insurer, the League of Cities. So I have a secondary role and things like that, but League of Cities does not handle breach of contract cases. So I had a specific attorney firm contact me and said, hey, your governmental entity breached your contract. We had a contract and they had all the documents showing we had breached the contract prior to me coming on board. And it was to the tune of about 50,000 plus attorney's fees. And they were wanting to go to arbitration mediation. So I started looking into the issue and I found out that there was an automatic renewal clause in that contract. Had a couple little sketchy things going on in it. So I seen that problem. I wrote a legal memorandum about the automatic renewal clause, and also using federal and state law. It's called the Unfair Trade and Deceptive Practices Act. There's a federal and state law. So I did a little legal memorandum, added some cases in there where the big companies had been hit with loss, costs $600,000, $700,000. I sent that back to them. Never heard another word. The statute of limitations has ran, and I saved my government entity $65,000 by doing that one legal memorandum. So that was one pretty enjoyable interaction with other attorneys based on breach of contract. Not terribly complicated either, but sometimes we have a need for law enforcement vehicles and maybe haven't budgeted for it. There's a process called a civil forfeiture. So if you get, it's heavy case law laden down. So if you use a vehicle, you could potentially forfeit it for the use of your city, for public health, safety, and welfare, if A, B, C, and D are all satisfied. So just because you use a vehicle in a crime doesn't mean you can necessarily forfeit it to the city. But one particular case, I think it was trafficking in methamphetamine where the vehicle was being used, and it was a paid-for vehicle. I think it had 30-something thousand miles on it. Real nice Toyota four-wheel drive pickup truck. And did a simple forfeiture on it, and we forfeited that vehicle for the use of the governmental entity. So once again, I felt like I pulled my weight there because I had may have charged $800 and got a $45,000 truck out of the deal. So that was the one interesting interaction with a legal issue and the strategy I used to resolve it.
Bill, you recognize?
Okay. What is your experience with litigation involving government interests, including special experience with a trial and deposition and experience with the Florida Administration Law Act procedure?
Just answer.
Sir?
You just answered.
Well, I can answer. I can keep talking on this one. So a lot of, I hate talking about myself. This is an interview and you're asking about it, so I have to talk about myself. But from the get-go, I've been an attorney for 15 years, and some attorneys spend their whole life and never step a foot in the courtroom. That hasn't been my life. I've been in the courtroom from day one. I used to prosecute for the Department of Revenue, and I would do, I think, Donna Fro, your daughter, now has something to do with that. She's a hearing officer, Mr. Donna Fro. But back in the day, it was a little busier than it is now. There's been a change in regimen and White House and such. But I used to do 90 trials a day, several times a week. And that's calling different parties, taking testimony, entering evidence, and doing what I needed to do to win that trial. And you think, well, trial a week, that's pretty tough. I was doing 90 a day. This morning, I do criminal stuff right now. I think I had, give or take, 60, 70, 80 cases, all of them were felonies. I took care of that before lunch. So on every one of those cases, I do depositions. I don't know if you could ever find any
there's probably somebody out there, but I have ample trial experience. That's what I've done my whole life. Is I stood up and talked to juries. I've stood up and entered evidence, other than working in, with the government aspect of it. The Florida Administrative Law Act procedures, that comes into play a lot of times, which I used to actually travel around, do several different counties, meeting in front of administrative law judges. So that's a whole different set of facts, a whole different set of laws. It's actually a little more complicated to most, and to me it was, because it's not something you do every day. You have to learn that different set of laws, but you learn them, you do it. I've traveled around, had hundreds, thousands of hearings in front of administrative law judges. So I'm very familiar with that. I think how that might come into play too with government, if you have, you're insured and you get sued, maybe a fella falls on the wood over there next to Spring Creek, and they sue. Normally you have to exhaust all your administrative remedies, and that goes into that Florida Administrative Laws Act. So before you can sue, we have to exhaust all that administrative remedies. So it goes to that. But I'm pretty familiar with all that, ample trial experience. I would say that's probably one of my strengths.
Okay. How do you approach communicating complex legal issues to a non-legal audience, such as county commissioners, department heads, or community groups?
That's a good question as well. I'll answer it. I feel just as comfortable sitting at the jail, having meetings with my criminals and hanging out with the correctional officers as I do with a group of doctors and lawyers. I feel like I can fit in anywhere. Over the years, I've figured out that I'm not better than anybody, but nobody's better than me. So I have a way of explaining things because I have had thousands and thousands of criminal clients and just different clients, and you can't explain things in terms that everybody doesn't understand. And I'm more of a country type person too. I don't use a huge vocabulary, but over the years I've developed a system where I can explain to people complex legal issues just talking like we are now. So I've had to do it for years and years and years and years. It's something that comes natural to me, and that's how I do it. I just being in the country my whole life and knowing everybody my whole life. You just have to break it down and not use the words that you might use in front of just a judge or some kind of civil issue. So that's how I'd handle that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Donna Frew, you recognize.
Mr. Bigelow, first of all, thank you for your interest in potentially being selected as our attorney. And thank you for taking the time to come over and present your qualifications. I guess this one question is, you've somewhat answered it already, but I'll go ahead and ask it anyway. Do you consider yourself to be an escalator or a de-escalator of conflicts?
And give an example how you'd handle a disagreement with a county official over a legal matter? Yes. I would consider myself a de-escalator. There's no reason why everybody can't get along. We have a job to do. We can't have personal animosities come into any type of play in community government. You're here to serve the public. There's no place for any type of animosity. How I'd approach it is, if possible, if it's, you couldn't have a quorum and violate sunshine laws or anything like that. But if there was an issue that came up, how I would prefer to handle it is discuss with that person privately at first. Say, hey, it looks like we got off on the wrong foot. You think this and I think this, and let's figure this out. And I think most of the time, if you follow the golden rule, clear heads and calm heads will prevail. So that's how I try to handle that. Yes, sir.
I kind of already answered the second question, so I'll go on to my third question. How do you identify and handle potential conflicts of interest when serving as a private attorney on a retainer for a public entity such as the Jackson County Board of County Commissioners?
Well, you never really know where a conflict is going to arise. You have to watch for it. Some conflicts are obvious, some conflicts are not. just as the nature of being an attorney and doing the business that we do, there's going to be a potential for conflicts. I believe I'm in a pretty good position because I've been working outside of Jackson County for many, many years now. I worked in Bay County for 8, Bay and Gulf, and then I've been working in Washington County for 5 or 6. So I've done very little private work in Jackson County. So those levels of conflict are probably going to be lower for me. Now, if, you know, of course, right now I'm employed with the Public Defender's Office doing criminal things, and there could potentially arise a conflict, and we'd have to identify it and figure it out and move forward.
Should you be selected, would you give up those positions, as serving those in your prior positions?
Specifically, it's according to what we worked out. I know when we did the proposals, there were several different proposals, and I think one of those would require it, and maybe one might not. So I think it's according to how the commission plans on moving forward with that. I'll just be, you know, there was one of my proposals was a staff position. So of course, yes, if I got the staff position, I would not be able to work, you know, doing the Public Defender's Office anymore. And that probably saddened me a bit, because Mark Sims is such a great guy. He's my boss, and he's been good to me, and the job's great. That's probably one of the good things here today is if this doesn't work out for whatever reason, I'm in pretty good shape. You guys are in pretty good shape. You know, I've seen all the other interviewers back there, and I think you guys will do the right thing and pick the right person.
Thank you.
Mr. Branch, you recognize?
Thank you. Thank you for coming, Casey.
Thank you.
Questions about billing, availability, and caseload. How do you ensure cost-effective legal services in the county, and what strategies do you use to manage and control costs? Well, it's according to what kind of billing arrangement you come up with. There's several different types. I'm sure you've seen in the proposal. Some people probably proposed a lump sum encompassing X number of hours for X number of dollars. But at the end of the day, I've lived in Jackson County pretty much my whole life. It's a great county, maybe not the richest out there, you know. So you have to be mindful of, could I make a project drag out and make a few extra dollars? And that's not the way I do business. You know, I like to get it done as inexpensively as possible. You know, you got to make money, but at the same time, you have to recognize that resources are not unlimited. You know, you have X number of dollars in your budget for legal work, and you got to try to make it fit in there. And make sure I didn't miss anything. And no, I do not plan to staff any position with partners or associates. And I've never missed a meeting. I'll be there. If I'm sick, I'll be there unless something happens where I couldn't. But no, if I were selected for the position, it would be me. Yes, sir. What is your billing structure for retainer work? Currently, different cities and counties. So currently, what I have going on, it works pretty good. You have basically a retainer, and that covers the meetings and anything under 2 hours special project work. So what that allows to happen is, I personally don't like it. So if I get a phone call, as an attorney, you're supposed to write it down in 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and keep up with that and charge. I personally don't like doing that. If that's the way it needs to do, then that's the way it will have to happen. But with that lump sum, it includes all normal county duties, which would be taking phone calls, looking over the agendas, getting different things prepared, ordinances, resolutions, because none of that takes over 2 hours. So that'd be included, you know, with a lump sum with a meeting. And then anything over X number of hours it's going to take extra, then charge it, you know, X number of dollars per hour. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is you basically just have a cost for the meeting. For the meetings, you guys have 2 per month. You know, say average, say $500 a meeting, that'd be $1,000 a month. And then on top of that, you charge, you know, however many hours, you know. So, and then there's the third way to do it, which would be a staff attorney position, and then you don't really bill at all. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Guess it's my turn, Casey.
Yes, sir.
Of course, you already answered this, I guess, but urgent or emergency legal issues, phone call.
I would imagine that I would have everybody's cell phone number that I need to have, and everybody needs to have mine would have mine. And when I get a call or a text, or text, to be honest with you, 'cause now I'm in the courtroom a lot, so I can't answer the phone, but, yeah, you gotta be available. There's gonna be emergencies that pop up. And, sometimes it's gonna happen at 10 o'clock at night. And if you get a call at 10 o'clock at night, that's part of doing business. That's,
Technology, everything that you would have with technology, you already know all about, I'm sure.
I don't know if I know all about it, Mr. Westbrook.
Well, all I know about it, probably put it in a little small cup about that big.
There you go. Yes, sir.
But anyway, to ensure the efficiency of your workload, workflow and communication and that sort of thing.
Yes, sir. Everything's computer driven now. So I wouldn't say I'm the best at doing the computer and technology related things. I'm sure some of y'all are. I do pretty good. I mean, I haven't had any issues. I can get by. I love copy and paste. I've found over the past 15, 16 years of doing this, I've found the ways that work and the quickest ways and using technology, yes, sir. I'm just gonna be honest with you. There's people that are more technologically savvy than I am, but I do okay.
Poor duck won't praise his own puddle.
So,
A poor duck won't praise his own puddle.
yes,
But we appreciate you coming. We appreciate you applying. We admire everybody that goes away and gets degrees and comes back and lives where we all were raised.
yes, sir. I was born, just real quick, I know it's not a question, but I was born in Delwood. My real biological father was in the military, so I lived in Germany till two and a half. He got transferred to Colorado. I lived in Colorado until I was fixing to start the summer before my third grade. So I moved back. I graduated from Grand Ridge High School. Saddens me there's no longer Grand Ridge High School, but that's a different story for a different day. And I actually went to, when I graduated high school, salutatorian. I got some financial help to go to college because I grew up fairly poor. I graduated from Florida A&M University when I was 21 and ended up going to law school. I did my first year at Florida A&M University in Orlando and did pretty well. And I transferred to University of Florida. So that's where I got my degree from. But I started out at Florida A&M University, my first year of law school in Orlando, and then I transferred to UF and finished up. And I've been practicing now in the community here for 15, 16 years. So, but for the past 7 or 8, not a whole lot in Jackson County. I've been kind of the outlying counties.
Well, we appreciate you coming. We appreciate you applying. We appreciate your answer. And we appreciate everybody in this room that came and brought their special attention to this. I think that about concludes our interviews. Is that right, Mr. Dean?
Yes, sir. And, Mr. Westbrook, as I understand, based on your opening comment, this will address it at the second meeting in January.
We will. And also, if you can give the people that work for this, as far as Mr. Bryant, Mr. Bryant, and the other people, Mr. Larimore, and others, if you would give them the board's compliments, we appreciate that, or we can all give them single-handedly. We thank the attorney lady for coming and spending a lot of time here today and got to go back late tonight, this afternoon. That's what we appreciate most about you, ma'am. You're not afraid of work. But we appreciate everybody in this room, board, Mr. Crutch, Commissioner Crutchfield, Commissioner Donapro, Commissioner Spires, and I've already thanked Commissioner Branch. Anybody else that deserves one, pat yourself on the back and say, I gave it to you.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, board, and everybody involved. Thanks for having the interview. I sure thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm in good shape. You guys make whatever decision you need to make for the county.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody got anything else?
No,
Okay.
I was gonna say, did we decide that, the second meeting in January?
Well, it's probably. Thank you. I don't got one more meeting. Out here. I didn't want to.
No, I think.
I think everybody needs to think about it. Whatever fair.
And the one thing I was gonna discuss is, what time we're gonna have to decide, if it's a round table or,
Yeah, you're
throw out
right.
the top down.